everyone.
Hi,
Hi.
Janice.
Welcome.
It looks like the mountain to me. I don't know.
And here's our
There-
newly elected councilwoman.
There she is.
Welcome, Alexis, and
Yay.
congratulations.
Congrats, Alexis.
Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me.
We
Yeah.
can.
We can.
Oh, nice.
Yes, congratulations. This is the clear and bright spot of the election. So well
No
done.
kidding.
I just took a nap, which means I haven't looked at the national in a whole 15 minutes.
Don't bother. You're not missing anything. I went to Point Reyes this afternoon just because if I stay home, I keep looking at the news and that's really bad for you. So no new
Yeah.
news. Forget it.
Yeah, the watchword is patience, and every vote needs to be counted, and it will be, and we will know probably tomorrow, Friday. So
Yes, indeed. Next order is the approval of the minutes from both the August 24th meeting and the September 30th meeting. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes, or do we have a motion to approve?
I'm sorry, Faris. I actually did have something for a commissioner up. Now it's not even update. I don't know where it belongs.
Oh,
but
yes. Actually, you're right. The B, item B there. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, just to say that I had seen something, I think in the weekly news update from town, that they were going to do some more of the slurry sealing on our major streets, I think on Sir Francis Drake and someplace else. And I really would like for us to explore how not to put the darkest black material on our streets. It really does increase temperature significantly. There are multiple studies now that show that. And I know we looked into it once a couple of years ago, and I think Sean said, maybe off the top of his head, that, or I don't know if Elise spoke to him or not, but just that it cost a lot more. But I've spoken to someone who runs a paving company up in Petaluma, and he said they actually have to add something to it to make it look blacker, because that's what people want. And so whatever that means, right? And so I really think that we on the cutting edge could do something just like that. That shouldn't be a huge cost. It shouldn't be a huge cost differential anyway, to really make sure that we're actually coloring the streets a light color instead of a darker color. So I just throw that out. And if people are interested in it, I'm happy to follow up with Elise or Dimitri or whatever is the appropriate thing.
Thanks. I guess technically I'm not sure how much we can discuss it right now.
Yeah.
But sounds great to at least be neutral, instead of adding like dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'd say that that's something that's in our climate action plan right now, I think. So I think Dimitri and I could talk about that.
Okay.
Dimitri's probably the man. He'll know
Oh, good.
where to find that answer.
Yeah, I mean, it is in the climate action plan. We briefly looked into that. I think there is a cost difference there sometimes. And then there's also what the public wants, and they want the black roads with the striping. And then if it doesn't look quite as shiny or whatever, that there might be some other complaints or concerns. We can definitely, I mean, paving season is summer, so we can definitely, we don't have a design or anything for the
Okay.
year yet. It's
Oh,
actually
great.
going into the design phase at some point soon, to go out to bid in the spring. So we can look into it, and then it can be either an alternate bid depending on how much it's going to cost or whatever. But yeah, we can definitely discuss and see
Okay.
can do with regards to that going forward, and if there's any studies or anything, I can get some contacts or something to pull.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And if you can bring that back to us before big decisions are made, and if there's something that you think that we as a commission need to do to guide the town or make it more official, I'm happy to help make that happen with the commission.
Okay, I'll make a note.
Thank you.
Are there any other updates from anybody else? Things that aren't on the agenda, but
Congratulations, Alexis. Very proud my parents voted for you, and happy to see you continue doing good work.
Thank you. Oh, wait, I don't know who can. This
We
is a
can hear you
different
again.
format. Okay,
We can hear ya.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Great. Okay, now to the approval of the minutes, August 24th and September 30th. Comments, questions, or a motion to approve? Is that thumbs up?
So
on-
moved.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
I,
Aye. All right, we are unanimous in approval of the minutes. Great, thank you. Is Carlene here?
I don't see her here.
Okay. So we'll technically push the presentation towards later in case she does show up, but given the day change and the day, it would be reasonable that we don't see her. So new business review.
Sorry, should we send an email to her or something just to remind her? Or
Yeah, I
Elise, do you have an email?
I
Yeah.
could do that.
That would be great, just to find out for sure.
yeah, because I think she'd agreed to the new time. But it's a distracting day, so
Yes.
Yeah.
probably worth a reminder.
In the meantime, we can move on to new business. Review and make recommendation on the town council to the town council on the Marin Civil Grand Jury report on climate change adaptation.
I sent you some draft responses that I drafted and Ellie had taken a look at. And then I remembered just as I was sending them out that we had received comments from a group that had provided us with some responses. And I haven't had a chance to incorporate anything that they suggested into the response, but I'm happy to do that. And I think just the main question I think that they had in this report was they wanted the county to form a multi-jurisdictional task force in order to address climate change and specifically adaptation. So the comments were thinking that we were doing a lot to mitigate, but not necessarily coordinating our adaptation strategies. And some communities don't have any adaptation strategies at all. So I have to say that I would agree. My draft would be that we should agree with a lot of the responses, but we also made some comments in addition to agreeing. I think that's essentially the gist of it if you didn't have a chance to read them. But I'm happy to take any comments. The town council will be considering it at their meeting on, I believe it's November 24th, which is not this coming Tuesday, but a couple weeks after that for adoption.
I did review them and I thought that they were good comments. Let me see if I had a version of this. I hate PDF. It's a personal problem of mine. I might have a tiny little wording comment. I'll have to look for it, but I generally thought they were good. In essence, what you guys are saying in your comments is that the grand jury focused on adaptation because they felt that the county had done a good job generally and was running ahead of the game with mitigation in terms of meeting their climate greenhouse gas emission goals. But you were saying, but make sure that whatever group is set up, we need to ensure that they address both adaptation and mitigation and have sort of comprehensive efforts. I mean, is that generally the way you, and then of course there's the thing where they want all the governments to have their a person devoted to sustainability coordinator or whatever. And you guys talked about the fact that we're, underfunded and currently do not have the funds for a full-time person. And so I thought they were good, full comments. Anyone else have comments?
Is there interest in going point by point of the comments, or like, is there anything, Elise, that you have a specific question about, you know, or something, or?
No, there isn't really. I thought it was fairly easy as grand jury report responses go.
Mhm.
Because I think we would, or my guess is that the town council will be hopefully in agreement with the draft responses. And then we certainly would welcome help from the county to help with adaptation planning and just coordinating all of our efforts, and not just for sea level rise, but definitely for all the different areas where adaptation planning is needed.
Great.
Yeah, and if I can just add to what Kathleen was saying, for me, part of the problem was that when they're saying that we're doing a good job on emissions reductions, and almost all of that has to do with state policy and not things that we've actually implemented locally, and that state policy timelines are really behind, that it's unacceptable to just write it off like that. That's part of it. And then the second part is that to keep separating out adaptation from mitigation and treating these things like they're two different things, or I find that really problematic. And I think that's actually slowed us down in terms of climate action. So I think we've captured some of that in the comments that Elise put together and that I added to. And I think that the other comments that are from this group, I forgot what they call themselves, but that they have some good points in there as well. So anyway, I appreciate, Elise, you taking the time to go through that. Thank you.
Awesome. Do you need a motion or something formal from us to?
You know, I guess I don't really need a motion unless you want to say that you support the responses, if you're comfortable saying that. But I would actually like to edit them to incorporate anything we need to add from the group that wrote to us that had additional responses. And so what?
We just lost you, Elise.
You just cut out.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
If I could have consent to amend those responses and run them past Ellie, if you could authorize her to like, I don't know, review any amendments to them. But I guess having support would be good. I could put in the staff report that you reviewed and supported them if you're interested in supporting this.
I mean, yes, me personally, I'm absolutely interested in supporting that, and then also, you know, giving you free reign or whatever, giving you our support to further amend them to incorporate the other groups' comments. Is that general consensus?
And might ask if anyone from the public wants, I don't know that anyone wants to comment, but no one has their hand raised, but if anyone wants to. And then we did receive, Susanna Saunders put in the Q&A that Carlene thought she'd rescheduled this for a later meeting, and she definitely wants to come, but wasn't able to come tonight. So we could try to reschedule her. And we do have Alexis. I'll allow you to unmute.
Hi, I just took a quick cursory glance at the response. And my one thought, I don't know if it's in there or not, but it's just that adaptations as a rule should not exacerbate the problem, which seems like it's obvious.
That's good.
But it might make sense to kind of talk about that in the context of, like, you know, what, you know, if we're talking about microgrids, are they going to be microgrids that are you know, powered by natural gas or solar, you know, so I don't know.
Yeah, or another example is the grazing that we've had here up the hill next to my neighborhood, where they did it 2 years in a row on the exact same place at the same time. And this second year completely overgrazed so that there's no vegetation left. So as soon as it rains, it's gonna be mudslides, and that doesn't work either. So that's a great, we want to avoid maladaptation. That's really a great point. Thanks, Alexis. And I would say, Elise, maybe you could, are you able to send it to all of us without it being an official meeting? Maybe you're not allowed to do that. I was gonna say, yeah, you can't, okay.
I mean, like, you can't comment. You could all give, I could send it to you and you can provide me with your individual comments and then I won't share them with everyone else. That's one way I could do it.
So if anybody cares to, I guess I definitely
Everyone
want.
can individually comment me and then I won't share the responses with everyone. I'll just
Yeah.
take them in terms of comments for the town council and changes that I can make before I bring it to the town council.
So just in case anybody else, would anybody else actually be interested and have time to take a look at it in the next period of time, next couple of
I
weeks?
already looked at it, actually. I
Oh.
thought it was really well done. So
Okay.
I give edits to documents all day, every day, and I had no edits for this document.
There you go.
so-
That's a big compliment.
Woohoo.
I glanced over it too, and I thought it looked really good. So
Me too.
nice
So,
work.
so Elise, do you want us to move sort of that and vote?
Sure, if you could do that
we support it?
officially, that'd be nice.
Yeah, so I would move that the commissions generally support the content of the response to the civil grand jury report on climate change, and we'll trust you to make final changes.
I
Great.
second that.
Okay.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah,
Right.
Aye.
excellent. So unanimously approved.
Thank you, Elise, for your work on that.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. So next up is the draft, to discuss the draft fence regulations as they relate to the preservation of wildlife corridors. And Elise, I believe you've,
Yeah, I have,
and
I mean, let me
Ally,
promote
yeah.
Jim Vernon. He's the one that proposed it. And I don't know if he wants to start by explaining what he's intending. And then I can talk about how I modified what he had recommended. So I've promoted him to panelist if he wants to speak to it.
Jim, are you there, or? I don't see the little microphone or video icon next to his name.
I don't hear him either. So, oh, I see a mute.
He's
sign.
there, but he's
Here we go.
muted. Okay, oh, there we go.
We can't hear you if you're, oh,
Yeah. I'm here.
oh, great.
Great.
I'm ready for however you want me to participate.
Oh, can you, yeah, I was gonna ask if you could just begin by explaining what you're seeking, and then I can talk more about it in terms of how I took what you were
Okay.
interested in. But why don't you, if you could tell us what you're interested in.
Yeah, sure. Just a little bit background on me. I've been working within the outdoor industry in various capacities for the past almost 30 years. And the outdoor industry is very, I think, tries to be very environmentally minded. And I live in San Anselmo, and one of the issues that I started, it just started coming up with me in just my general area was the fencing that has been, I think, pretty much allowed almost carte blanche. There's certain permits that are required, but specifically for me, it was when I had just a few neighbors which have land that totals probably over just over maybe or slightly around 4 acres. To be completely sealed off with perimeter fencing. So in my area, which is, it's just to orient you where I'm at, I live on West Hillside Avenue. It's has an elevation of about 200 feet. I live adjacent to RH1 properties. And we had a lot of wildlife here, specifically, a lot of herds of deer. And once this fencing started going up, we noticed a few things. One, different deer patterns. It's a steep slope, so some of the slopes you can see a lot of erosion and deer trails happening. And then once the further fencing came up, that just came to a halt. All the deer were gone, and the perimeter fencing that's been taking place in my neighborhood is approximately 6 feet tall. It doesn't allow any pass through. And that's passed through from the bottom for getting underneath or for any animal that it might want to jump over. It's also a type of fencing which is a wire mesh, which is also can be detrimental to any kind of birds of prey that might be flying through. So the idea that this seemed wrong to me inspired me to kind of look to see what other municipalities were doing, not only in California, but across the country. And I found a few really progressive types of fence regulations in communities that I think are similar to ours, including Ventura County, Aspen, Colorado, Glenwood Springs, and a few in Washington, which tried to set some standards to what was allowed, and with a priority of reducing fragmentation in urban wildlands interfaces, and to do that, just to allow some of these fences to have pass-throughs. There were a lot of fence regulations that admittedly took into account people's need for privacy, people's need to have a garden, people's need for protection or security, or to allow their pets to go running wild. So I think it was really tempting to me when I was looking into this to try to come up with specific regulations based on what I found. But ultimately what I felt was that it should really be a community or a neighborhood type of input, and that leaving some discretion to the planning department to decide what is best for these wildlife corridors, but just to have some sort of guidance for people seeking new fencing in our area. Additionally, like I would say that there is a area in San Rafael that's right along the same ridgeline that I live on, which is open space. And then the water source is the creek right downtown in San Anselmo. That has been virtually cut off. The only way animals or deer could get to that creek now is to go into the Miracle Mile. So that there's benefits to having good fence regulations, and it's not taking away fences from people. It's just kind of giving them guidance, reducing the perimeter fencing that takes place, because I feel like, especially in large lots, it may not be necessary, but it's what people know. And I think people do what they know. If they were only provided a little bit more guidance, I think that we could help increase the animal corridors, wildlife corridors, and reduce the fragmentation. To give what I felt, I sent a draft a few weeks ago to give this regulation a little bit of teeth. I felt that you have to, really kind of push people, especially with new developments, to come in line with these new standards and regulations. So I guess that's it in a nutshell, why I was inspired.
Great. Thank you.
And then I wanted just to add, so there's some policies that we can insert into the general plan under our conservation element, and that's pretty straightforward to add just policies about wanting to protect wildlife corridors. The harder part is just how staff would implement something like this, because even just right now, most people don't want to come in for, or don't come in for fence permits, because fence permits aren't usually required if you're building a fence that's 7 feet taller or lower. Mm-hmm. But there's also, we have some special rules in the Bald Hill area plan, which do have these same policies, but they're not written into our actual code, and that's been a problem. So there's specific policies, which I included in the draft, that that require wildlife corridors, and also require some transparent fencing to keep that like sort of hillside feel in those areas. And those are just, since they're not in the municipal code, I think they're difficult to enforce, and they're difficult for people to know that they apply to their property. So this does give us an opportunity to put those in the code, and also think about how we would enforce something like this, because the challenge is that people aren't going to be coming in for permits to do it. So and it would be, and it's always difficult if we're going to be only regulating some properties and not everyone. And then I guess one final question is just, I believe that there's that they might have cut off the wildlife corridor near where Mr. Vernon lives. But I also wonder, is there a problem? Like, because it does sound like people are complaining all the time about deer and wildlife wandering the streets, but it's also, you know, and my thought is we couldn't just regulate the hillsides. We'd have to regulate the flatlands too, because they have to still find a way to the creek and the flatlands. So I think we have to think through some of these issues if we're going to go down this road.
Right, that was actually one of my questions also. I live next to the creek and our driveway is a deer corridor to get to the creek. So it didn't make any sense to me to, you know, not let the people above 150 feet elevation not have fences, and then let me have whatever I want and cut off, you know, the deer from getting to the creek. Right now, they do have a cut through and they can get to the creek. So yeah, I thought it should apply to everyone if we were going to try and do it, but I don't have any clue about enforceability. That's Elise's department.
I have some sort of general and then I guess maybe a little bit more specific questions or something like that. One of my questions was, you know, what area in town will this cover? I do have a fence. It's 5 feet tall. It's not 6 feet, but it's definitely impenetrable by deer, and that is by design. We have a garden and we want to grow food and whatnot. I think sort of generally, I'm wary of us diving fully into this issue. In part because the recent history with the generators at the town council level has, you know, that was a neighbor dispute that wasn't. There seemed to be some problems around sort of a governing body siding with one set of neighbors without the other set of neighbors being included in the initial process. So I guess for starters, if we do proceed with this, if we do pursue something like this, it needs to be a very open and publicized kind of process from the get-go, because we don't, as a sustainability commission, have a ton of political capital to use, and we don't want to alienate certain members of the community just because it was brought to us. That I know is definitely a devil's advocate sort of position here, or you know, maybe not the most exciting position here, but I'd love to sort of get everybody else's feedback on that, and really, you know, before we sort of dive into the nuance of this, sort of discuss that.
Well, I would just add, you said that you had a fence and that it's 5 feet tall. I think that's fine, but just to have perhaps some limits on that fence. So, for example, there are regulations that some of the other cities that I mentioned have, which say you can have a fence however tall you want, say up to 8 feet, as long as it's within 30 feet of your home. So that could be a way to I think to address people's need for, like I said, privacy, need to keep the deer out of their gardens if they have you know, things that the deer like to eat. So I think there's ways around that that will allow people to have fencing. It's just the idea that if it's breaking off if it's a perimeter type of fencing that goes around an entire property line, then
large lots. That's what we're talking about.
And if you go block it, or you know, lot after lot after lot with all perimeter fencing, that's where you have the problem. Now, another way to perhaps address some of these issues is to have a maximum lot size or minimum lot size that can have perimeter fencing. and then a lot size that's say, above a half an acre, that you say, perimeter fencing is not something that we want, because anyone with a half acre lot is living within, most likely, an urban wildlands interface. And we already have designated borders of an urban wildlife interface in San Anselmo.
Does anybody on the commission want to share any thoughts?
I have some questions. Are there sort of known wildlife corridors where we want to maybe focus a little bit more? I'm just not familiar with all of those, because I basically just go up behind my house into MMWD land, and I don't go on many other trails.
Well, a really easy way to look at it is go into Marin Map. They have a urban wildlife interface boundary. So if you want to use that as a guide, that would be a good start.
And the urban wildlife interface talks about where properties are prone to fire. So it'll cover everything essentially, except for the commercial downtown. But however, I mean, I think if we were to look into this, we might be able to see more, like just by trails that they've already created, and there might be roads that are just regularly used. I think there's probably some investigation that can be done to figure that out.
There would be a lot.
But there's probably a lot of deer trails that cut it long. But I'm interested in exploring some of these ideas. I think it just needs, to be well thought out. But I would bet it would, or it could be done on a case-by-case basis, that if staff has to go out there, we're not habitat experts, to see if something's a deer path or a person path.
I would say it goes beyond deer too. I know that people have a love-hate relationship with deer, but we have foxes, coyotes, raccoons, all sorts of other small animals that are blocked. And I tried to make a draft, and I thank Elise for working so hard at taking my draft and making it what it is. But a lot of it is pulled directly from the San Anselmo General Plan, as far as wildlife corridors. So it's there, it's already.
Yeah, so that, sorry, go ahead, Kathleen.
I was going to say, though, I do agree with Forrest that if we wanted to, if either the Sustainability Commission or another entity, the Planning Commission in town, wanted to address this, I would recommend that it be an open process with a hearing, because we did get into the trouble with the standby generator issue, and we don't want to replicate that. And I think this, we have so much of a need for open meetings to discuss things, because it could impact people's properties or plans they have in the works, development plans, building plans, and you don't want to sneak some policy in on them and they find out about it after they've got their fence built.
So remember that we're not the ones approving this. We would be recommending it from, and this is strictly from the wildlife concern, we'd be recommending it to the town council. And I would say Alexis and her fellow council members are responsible with staff to figure out what the process is to take into consideration input from the public. And I just want to clarify, so Elise and Jim, the changes are really what you have here in red. That's the only changes in wording. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's correct. It's a red line version in the code. And a lot of those changes deal with this Bald Hill issue. I think what we would really need to do is supplement with some sort of guidelines, because it creates some basic standards, but it really is looking for some other guideline document.
Yeah, okay.
Which that hasn't been developed.
Okay. So I personally think that if you just look at what's added to this, it's actually pretty simple. How it gets enforced is a whole different thing. And it really is to understand that we live within ecosystems and there are animals here. And it just means being more sensitive in how we build the fencing, and proper fencing is really critical, especially during droughts and access to water, for example, that Jim highlighted. And I personally strongly support the wording that's here. Now, if we're going to do something much bigger, Elise, I guess I'd ask you for guidance. What, if it needs a whole set of guidelines to go with it, is it possible for us as a sustainability commission to say, we recommend this in principle? Like this is pretty simple things. It's just saying these approaches the conservation needs to consider wildlife as well. That's all that it says, in my opinion. And then we pass it to you as staff to develop guidelines and to work with the council. Is that correct, or am I oversimplifying it? Or
No, I think that would work. It's just like, I think it might be nice, and maybe it's not sustainability commission, maybe it's open space, or maybe it's just workshops held by staff to not make the council deal with it at a public meeting.
oh, I see what you're saying.
To not make like put that burden of having the public meetings on them, but to have a different forum, which could be the planning commission or some other forum. Or
I
just,
see.
just public meetings just for that particular topic.
Got it.
But yes, I think if that was what you're comfortable doing, that's fine. And then it would just be something that we would move ahead to see if they're in.
Denise has
interesting.
her hand raised, so I don't know if she has something to say.
Hi. Yeah, I want to just stand with Jim to say this is a really important issue. I know it's been worked on for years, and I don't know if it's done or being started, or I think it's being started down in LA. They're building actually a bridge over the 405 freeway for wildlife corridors. So I think it's really it's an important issue to do something about or think about. And I was also wondering if the Sustainability Commission could collaborate with Open Spaces on something like this. So it's not just one, or if, I don't know if they have anything to do with it, or if Jim has spoke with them, or Elise.
Yeah, I think it would be great. So I'm the staff person for Open Space too, and I could ask them if they'd like to put it on an agenda, and Jim could attend, and we could show it to them too to get their feedback.
Yeah, thanks. And I did reach out to them, but I think I focused on the Sustainability Commission, and only because I didn't know if the Open Space Committee was just focused primarily on obtaining lands or not. And I thought that this topic might fit better here, but I'm happy to keep on. I'd be happy to speak or reach out to them some more.
One thing that I would also want to see, which if certainly correct me if I'm wrong, because I read the article about the wildlife corridor in the 5 a long time ago, but it was that's kind of targeted towards mountain lions, which are endangered or threatened or something along those lines. There'd be a lot more weight to the argument if there was, there are mountain lions in Marin. If there was some studied kind of, and it can be citizen science, of course, but some numbers associated with the amount of wildlife that's in San Anselmo, et cetera. That's just like a piece of advice. Numbers always help. They certainly helped me.
Yeah, for example, I did find a study that done by a Canadian university, which estimated the amount of fencing is approximately 13 times the amount of roads. So that was something. Would that be something that would be interesting to you? Like, if you want to do a wildlife study, I think that's a little bit more problematic, as you can imagine, for anything that's short term.
Problematic and short term.
Well, as far as like collecting all that data, that would be rather than just kind of looking at the history of our land, looking at our I think the goals of the general plan as far as wildlife, and then saying that this is the right thing to do.
Sure, I will push back that our climate action plan has a lot of data backed up with it. There are carbon emissions numbers, and we can, discuss and argue about the numbers and the, if they represent the whole picture or whatnot, but there is data associated with it. And am I, requiring that of everything that comes through the Sustainability Commission? Certainly not. I'm just suggesting that.
You think this data that you're interested in, does it need to be specifically for San Anselmo, Marin, California? What
California
kind of
would be too broad. I would go for Marin or San Anselmo, but I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ellie?
first I have a little different view because we're not ever going to have a study done here in San Anselmo. I think that's what Jim was suggesting, and I think that's unrealistic. And I think you could even have it be for California, actually. And it's not the exact same ecosystem, but if we found something for Marin, that would be great. But again, I want to emphasize that this is building on a plan that's already on some issues that are already part of our general plan. And this is adding just a few words here to indicate that we consider protection for wildlife when we're doing fencing. And I think that's a really critical thing. And to say, I'm just to point out to you that the argument you just used is one that Republicans use a lot on climate change. and so not to be offensive or anything, but I just want to say that this is, or even to say we would only do it if we knew we had endangered species here. We probably do. And you got to remember that the territory of mountain lions is much bigger than San Anselmo. And so they have been seen within San Anselmo boundaries, and then they're in other places. So I think that we're not going to get to that level of detail in this. I think it's more general, is my sense.
I hear you. I've expressed my concerns about the neighbor argument and how we're wading into a neighbor argument again.
And Alexis and Janice have their hands raised in the audience too.
Alexis, do you want to go first? Sorry.
Sure. I'll say I think it's wise to be sensitive to the neighbor argument. I also think, unfortunately, a lot of times neighbor disputes are sort of kind of like our case law in terms of how our ordinances evolve over time. So I think what's happened with generators is unfortunate, but also I had no idea that was the backstory until months after the initial discussion. So that's kind of bracket that off. I think it is wise to be thinking about it. I like the idea of moving forward with open space because it seems like a natural fit. But then the question I think is, I think what I hear Forrest saying is, is it and I've heard this, elsewhere as well, is it a solution in search of a problem? And what I hear Ellie saying is, let's err on the side of caution. My suggestion would be to reach out to Wildcare and maybe consider just because I think they are, there are groups in the area. There might not be some sort of, quantitative study, but there might be information that is locally specific that could inform the Sustainability Commission, as to whether or not this is something that you all would like to take on as a commission. So I just think that would be a place maybe to start looking.
Thank you. And Janice, you also had your hand raised.
I just wanted to say I will help Jim find some studies to back up this whole thing, because I know Patagonia as a company did a lot of work with that in the last 8 years or so 8-10 years maybe. So I'll see what I can find up, and maybe Jim, if you could leave your email in the Q&A, I can send you something that I find, or if that would be helpful.
Yeah, thank you. That would be really helpful. And yeah, Patagonia has done some great work. They actually have a fence website.
Cool. Well, thank you, Janice, for volunteering that, and also personally, I guess, thank you to Alexis. I think that's a great idea to reach out to some sort of local organization that deals with this. for further information. I don't know what's next exactly. Are we?
So we could come back with more information if you wanted some more information before moving forward, or you could just indicate if you support the idea. And then we could try to think about where to do it next. Definitely, I think open space, if they're interested in having it on their agenda, would be a good stop. And then ultimately the Planning Commission has to rule on it too.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I would support adding some kind of language to the policies that say we would address wildlife habitat. That's actually something that I think we have in our climate action plan. Talks a little bit about that. And I had hoped we would actually coordinate with the folks doing design of our park downtown to talk about wildlife access. So this would, I think it would be a good thing to have, in more cases than just the height of fencing. We might find it useful in a number of other things that we're doing in town because we have wildlife and we would like to promote its ability to share the town with us and not find it dead on, Sir Francis Drake Boulevard.
I also just want to thank Jim for bringing this to us. And I always really feel like when a citizen brings something to us that they're passionate about, like Kathleen did initially on the two-stroke engines, and when Alexis first came to us, you never know how supporting them and helping them to realize their vision, whatever the appropriate pathway is, who knows, Jim might be a future council member, or we can help people get more engaged in the process. So I really am grateful to you, Jim, for taking the lead and bringing this to us. And thank you, Elise, for helping also.
I'd like to say thanks to everyone too that allowed the time here just to listen to it. It feels really good, and it feels like a great way to be involved in the community. And I appreciate all the hard work that everyone and time that everyone is putting in for all of this. So thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
I'm not sure how to add my email for Janice, so
Do you have one in a question? You might be able to put a question. I can't do that either. I was going to suggest also contacting One TAM on TAM. They do a lot of studying of, I think, wildlife there.
Oh, yeah.
And also the water district, I'm sure, does the same thing.
I can't open the Q&A from my side either.
All right.
Jim, if you, I can send Jim's email to you, Janice.
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
So are we good with this, Elise? Do you need anything else? Or
I don't know if you want. Yeah, I don't know if you want to support. I mean, what might be reasonable is to support adding the policy or clarifying the policy in the general plan, and then requesting the town council to consider it further, or the planning commission to consider it further, and then maybe we could see if they want to move forward with us working on it.
Great. So I'll make a motion to do that, for this to be considered so that it doesn't get lost.
I second.
Can we reiterate what that is again?
So I kind of wrote it up as the Sustainability Commission supports the inclusion of language on preserving wildlife habitat and corridors for wildlife in the general plan policies. And we recommend further consideration of this issue by the Planning Commission and Town Council.
So that, just to be clear, is that sort of general language it's not specific to fencing, it's not giving direction on that piece of it, but it's this general idea of supporting wildlife corridors and habitat.
Is that good enough, Elise, for someone to take it further?
I think so.
Okay.
Great. Thank you for reading that. Okay, so there's a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you all, and thank you, Jim, for bringing this to us. Janice does have her hand raised, I will say still.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, moving on to old business. Update on the two-stroke engine ordinance, next steps. Scheduling presentation with.
That's Dimitri. I think we discussed taking it to the town council maybe in January. But if we did that, we'd have to discuss it at a sustainability commission meeting before that. And I suspect we'll have just one more of these meetings before we get to January. Dimitri, did you have any update? I know you guys were going to work on refining the ordinance based on council input.
I haven't heard any movement. I can check in with Dave and see if he has any ideas, but no, I haven't heard any movement on the any revisions to the ordinance yet.
Okay, do you want us to take a crack at that? I mean, we were given 4 directions in the town council meeting, 4 items. And I have to say, I have issues with some of them because they fly in the face of the other things that the council members wanted. So I am confused by them. And I think we need to have some conversations. And I'm wondering if we need some offline conversations with council members to iron them out. I don't know how to do that unless you just want me to call somebody.
I mean, I would say you can absolutely call and you know, play politics, I guess. I mean, talk
It's not
to
really politics.
them.
It's just that I heard you, you told us to do this, but at the meeting we talked about that. How do you think those are going to work? I mean, it's really looking for clarification on the direction that was given, because the direction that was, they were in a hurry. It was 10 at night. Everybody was exhausted. And I just think no one really thought it through. So it's really up to town staff or us to take the next step. So if you guys want me to chew on this, I'm happy to do it and then send it to you, Dimitri. Let me know what you want me to do.
I mean, because the proposed resolution was a combined effort, but I think came from the town manager and with support from staff and other resources. So if you have, again, I'm not sure exactly where it originated. I just kind of helped with the moving it along and getting some community feedback. But if you want to get more clarity from the council, especially now that the elections are over and we have free reign for the next time period, and we can actually focus on that. So maybe that's a good starting point to get clarification from the newly elected council members and see if they have any feedback besides what they already gave at that one meeting.
Well, let me ask a question. I suppose I should know this, but I don't. When do the council seats change?
I believe it's the first meeting in December. I'm wondering, Alexis, do you know that? I think it's the first meeting in December where they have a switchover.
We just got an email. It might be different this year because of COVID and maybe needing to be sworn in person. I need to read my email.
Okay.
But I will.
Well,
I think it's probably safe to say that they won't be fully seated and operational until the beginning of the year. It's probably a good assumption. I know that first meeting in December, I believe is the one where they're would be sending off John Wright and introducing new members. And then I'm not sure they'll have a second meeting because of the holidays. So my recommendation might be maybe I could help you set up a meeting with Dave Donnery to talk about, maybe talk about it first.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. Right. And then the other awkward thing is the person who gave us direction is John Wright, and he's leaving.
Right.
And new council, I mean, Alexis is really familiar with the issues, so not a problem there. And Brian's heard it before, but Eileen will be brand new to it. I don't think she heard the discussion. I don't think she was at that one. So we'll have to somehow or another address that. So yeah, talking to Dave Donnery would be great. So I will go back to the ordinance. I will mark it up with their recommendations and comments, my responses and questions, and maybe we can talk.
That would be great. If you could start with that, and then I could set up a meeting to go over it, or with Dimitri, that'd be great.
Yeah, and then if we need to give Elise like a background, and I'd like to do a PowerPoint presentation that says, this is what we propose, you know, these are the issues, you know, to kind of level set, since we weren't able to do that last time. So, okay, I will set that up. That's my action item. Next.
Great. Item number 2 in old business, update on MCE Deep Green Enrollment Initiative outreach banner sign, identifying communities to promote initiative, schools, churches.
Banners are up.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Dimitri.
Yeah, so I can just really quickly talk about the banners. They were up. I think the banner at the hub was up for 2 weeks or so, and then today it appeared in my office again. So I'm assuming the rec department took it down because the next page banner is due to show up there. And then I talked to Sebastian. He said there's not like a very strict deadline, but we should coordinate with Fairfax, and because they're the next ones in line to get the banners, and they can just get them from us. So maybe next week or so we'll take them down, and I'll reach out to whoever at Fairfax is dealing with this, and or Sebastian will with MC, and then either I'll drop them off and they'll just pick them up. I think I've heard maybe 1 or 2 people mention it, you know, saying that that's kind of cool, and we saw the banners. That's about it. And then we have the webpage with the first round of stats. I haven't seen any updates or anything, so if you have them, email them to me and I'll put them up on that page.
We did get a little email from Sebastian Kahn, and I don't know that I forwarded that to you, so I will do that. We had a few signups, and we had more than Fairfax, which is very exciting, but they weren't many. And so we're going to have to figure out another way to promote this. And I owe something to Carla. We discussed getting this in the town manager newsletter to promote it, but I understand Carla has a little concern about it. Sounds like we're pushing a commercial product, and I understand that. So she said, send her the language and she'd chew on it.
Can we reach out to Mary Nijay or the Patch or something, like put it on the website or like on their website, like if they have a, you know, story day or short story day and not many news, they can put up, hey, San Anselmo is doing this with Fairfax.
My other thought was PG&E is the only other provider, so can we mention the PG&E 100% renewal program with it and call it even?
So we could certainly do that, and it makes sense if people for some reason have you know, don't want to do MCE Deep Green or something like that, and want to do the pure solar program at PG&E. That's I mean, great. Also, I think it was Sebastian, but maybe somebody else at MCE basically suggested that, look, I mean, it's not a commercial product. It's a government agency in which we are a member of, of sorts. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Shani, but I mean, it's like we have, we are a partner with MCE. So it's not like, you know, we're supporting goal zero batteries or something like that. It is different in that regard, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I've been trying to not say much because I don't know where the conflict really lies, but I'll just clarify that MCE is a local government agency of which the town of San Anselmo is a member. Ford Green is on MCE's board and is a decision maker. So it's very much, an extension of the town. Yeah, I think that's maybe all I will.
No, that's helpful, and I will put that together with the language and send it to Carla, and we can see. But actually, Dimitri, that's a great idea. Who knows how to get an item in the patch?
I'll also just maybe add that deep green funds, half of them go to building new projects in MC's service area. It's unlikely to be San Anselmo. I'll be honest about that. There's just not a lot of usable land in San Anselmo that I think we all know about. But there could be local workforce development, benefits or things like that. So my argument would be PG&E's money sent to PG&E goes to PG&E service area, whereas money sent to MCE goes to MCE service area, which is obviously more local.
Right.
And I would just, go ahead.
Oh, PG&E is actually the corporation, but go ahead.
Yeah, and PG&E is an investor-owned utility. And by that very name means that its number one goal is return for its investors and shareholders, whereas MCE is really operating in the public interest. So I would always want to, I don't really think that they're both the same. I would say anything we can do to support MCE is to our benefit as a community.
Right, okay. But I still think that having an item on the competition in a newspaper would be fabulous. Anybody have any connections or suggestions?
Can we do a Marin Voice or the other one, the smaller one, the shorter one, whatever those are? Basically be a write-up that we send to them. I know Kurt did that
In the
last
IJ.
year. Yeah, in the
Yeah,
IJ.
Kurt might be a good person to check on. He wrote a press release and then sent it out. So, and that seemed to be very successful.
Oh, that's true.
It's a small newspaper. They're hungry for stories. So.
Even the news came out San Anselmo for Kurt's.
It's true.
So maybe we should do sort of a press release, and maybe I could, when I send my language to Carla, I'll have her just sort of bless it, and then we can get it off to a couple different places.
You might be able to get some help from Sebastian.
Okay, good idea.
And we can coordinate that press release also with Fairfax as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in contact with them, and Kathleen, you got connected there as well, I believe, right? Around the data. I spoke with Joanne Lassner last year with the Fairfax Climate Action Committee, and just kind of they're going to be doing similar things to promote this. So it is a competition of sorts.
Have we informed, I mean, aside from Alexis, have we sort of informed the town council or other town folks that would have a stake in a competition with Fairfax?
Maybe we could do it at the public comment of the next town council meeting. Is that allowed?
Oh, of course. Anything's
Public
allowed
comment.
during open public comment.
Public comment, great. Any other thoughts?
That's a good idea.
Can any of the youth commissioners have connections with the Jolly Roger writers?
Yes, my sister is actually on it, I don't know if they're still calling it the Jolly Roger, because we're in the process of that, but we'll call it the Jolly Roger for now. But yeah, so she's on it, so I would be happy to talk to her about this, definitely.
Great.
Forward and onward.
Susanna had posted a question in the comments. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Are we talking about a press
don't-
release to promote San Anselmo Deep Green? I'd be happy to write a Marin voice.
Oh, good.
Awesome.
So.
We will definitely take you up on that.
And like I said, MCE already has, you know, like boilerplate language about the benefits of deep green, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, we have that nice material, I think, actually.
that's right.
Yeah, and Anya worked that up a little bit with the graphics. And so, yeah, we've got good language. It's just a matter of pushing it out a little bit further. It's, you know, it's hard. It's not that much money per month, but it's just, you know, people are busy and they're distracted and they don't take time to go sign up. We just need to get them motivated.
Oh, I know. One of the people that report to me took 1.5 years to sign up, and only because we finally said we're just signing you up now. So I get it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like Shalini, it's kind of like, you know, it just kind of has to be like right in their face and almost forced upon them in a sense. Not aggressively, of course, but.
Any other thoughts about this? Oh, Dimitri.
Sorry, I was saying a gentle nudge.
That's right.
Constant nagging.
Susanna has her hand up.
Thank you for being on top of that. Susanna?
Sure.
Can we unmute her, or she can unmute herself?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because I've written Marin Voices in favor of EVs, and I've mentioned when it's powered by MCE Deep Green, there's 0 emissions. So yeah, if someone could send me the language, I'd be really interested in doing that.
We'll let you work with Kimberly.
Okay.
And just to be clear, like, I mean, especially if it's coming from you, like, we wouldn't need to run this by anybody in town or something. We're
That's
just doing
true.
it independently. Is that?
But I'm happy to
Right.
put it on like San Anselmo letterhead or anything that might
Oh,
help
sure.
make it look official.
Okay.
I can send you the EV one so you have a base to start with if you want.
Cool. All right. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Moving on. Okay. Update on promoting alternatives to gas generators during PSPS. Alexis, one day after the election, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Well, I will share that I now have more free time to do what I said I would do. But the other piece that is newsworthy is the issue was re-examined 2 meetings ago on October 13th. Basically, there was another situation where it's just been very, very confusing. The information has been coming in very patchily. And actually, one council member felt like he was not adequately up to speed and basically requested that we postpone it. And so we're going to be talking about it, I believe, on Tuesday. And this would essentially be back to square one, which kicked it all off, which is, do we relax our noise ordinance to make it easier for people to get generators in a PSPS? And at least, am I allowed to talk about the issue? Is that, like, is this within the scope of this agenda item?
Oh, let me look at the description. I think it's pretty broadly worded. Let me pull it up. So it's, update on promoting alternatives. Well, you're talking about.
I mean, it's a public comment period on this agenda item, and so.
Oh, yeah, making public comment.
Yeah, I think that sounds fine.
All right. Well, we'll I'll just say that when we talked about it in July, I was under the impression that really the scope of what we were talking about was to not make it easier to install very expensive natural gas permanent generators, as infrastructure.
It was the whole house ones, right?
Right. But to kind of leave alone the smaller ones, which really from an equity perspective are the cheapest option if you just need to get some power to do what you need to do. And I think the town has a very limited ability to prevent people from going out to Home Depot and buying a couple $100 generator. But I do think that there's something different about the natural gas generators, and there's a lot of misinformation about how clean natural gas is, which of course it's not clean at all. And in certain cases, depending on the leakage rates, is probably dirtier than gas or even diesel, depending. So I think, a focus is, what's the town's role just in terms of the specific infrastructure that requires a permit, which is something we do have authority and jurisdiction over. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. And I'm happy to talk with anyone offline leading up to Tuesday and would actually appreciate that opportunity. So
I will comment and Dimitri weigh in on this. I mean, Dimitri did a one pager on alternatives to gas generators. And he posted that to the website and he got me the link, and we have actually put that out on Facebook. Not that millions of people have seen it, but that information is available to people. So if they are having questions about putting out a gas generator, the town is giving them guidance on choices.
Yeah, I believe our counter staff now will inform people who have questions about, whether they need a permit to install one to a gas generator. So they'll provide that handout to people who have questions about that, so that they at least see that there are alternatives to it. It's also on the website along with the other forms, and I don't know if we have it in paper, but it is available.
Right, which I thought was a good first step.
And then the kind of like cutesy project that I had envisioned was to create some sort of like visual log, visual slideshow, photos. I guess that's redundant, but of people with their alternatives, thumbs up with your pure sine wave inverter hooked into your car or whatever, and just a short description, just to make it really real that people are getting through these events in alternative ways. And again, like there are extenuating circumstances and there's medical circumstances, and that's not really what this is about. It's more just like, hey, here's how we can power ourselves through this cleanly. So,
Right.
so I'm leaning towards something visual, and I will get on that very soon.
So to add to that, I think Forrest actually had a good chart that he sent to me and Elise, I believe. That lists a whole lot of alternatives and comparable sources of power that are not tied to the grid with the approximate energy usage, approximate cost, I believe, the environmental impact and so forth. So I think that's a good visual. I'm not sure exactly where, we can put it on that page. We can, I don't necessarily know if we can use it as a form or a handout, but it can be some sort of material that can be on that page to facilitate the spread of information about the alternatives, and if you want to have.
Yeah, I was looking. I guess these don't have chats, so I was looking for a way to chat it to everybody. But yeah, the idea with it was I was actually kind of thinking of it as like sort of educational, just because there is sort of misconceptions about the alternatives and stuff at educational for the town council. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. Also, just it helps people frame up. It helps frame up and people understand the the different options and everything in it. And I tried to keep it really, I tried to keep it, I don't know, I don't have an opinion about it. I'm just trying to present these things. And, you know, so I used thumbs up and thumbs down emojis
Right.
in it to help make it just kind of a little less specific, and probably maybe as such a little bit more accurate. But I can share that with everybody also.
Yeah, and Forrest, if you just want to send me the link, I can actually just stick it in the minutes.
Yeah, okay, that sounds great. Yeah, it's a PDF just now. So. Okay. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Update on solar storage. Unless somebody else has anything to add to this, I'm just going to pass and punt this to next month.
I mean, real quickly, email you about that PSPS.
Yes.
So I actually got a quote from them. So the generator that they kind of spec'd out that would power, you know, that would hopefully power the night operations was like 125,000. And then two of them would, you know, almost 250, which the grant was for 300,000. But I honestly, I didn't go through with it because I don't think we would have gotten it, because especially if it's just, you know, one vendor or something that we're looking at. I think I think it's a recurring yearly grant. Well, I guess it started last year, and if PSPS events keep happening, I think there's a good chance that it'll be available for next year. Mm-hmm. And then if there's an actual project that we can materialize, that would not necessarily be dependent on one specific vendor, and that, you know, would maybe, you know, create jobs or whatever. That's a better sell for any grant, I think, than just, you know, outright buying something. So maybe that's something to think about for the next year.
Yeah.
But that's also, so the generator to power, you know, the entire town hall was too expensive, but they also have little tiny ones that they that are mobile and you can, you know, wheel them around. And I think they're the smallest one charges in like 2.5 hours and powers, you know, some basic needs for you. So I think that's a, you know, it's an electrical generator that can be powered either through the grid, or they have specific little solar panels for it specifically, which I thought it was a cool product. It's not a good candidate for a grant at this point. But that's another alternative, I think, to you know, a full house or, you know, natural gas powered generators.
Yeah, and just as background, so this is to power the police station overnight, police station which is attached to the town hall. Right now, during a PSPS event, the big diesel generator, which powers both, would basically still need to run full blast or whatever to power the police station. So the idea would be to get a battery, to power the police station overnight. And then, you know, the generator could go off during the night and then come back on during the day when the demand is higher. Yes, Ellie?
Have we looked into mobile storage? Like, we have some EVs that belong to the town. I was just curious because I know, like with my car, that we can power things in my house for a few hours. It wouldn't be for the whole night, but if we had 4 cars out front, 4 electric vehicles equal to my, you know, 4 times my Leaf out front, that you could do it consistently overnight. I'm just curious because it's just a different way of looking at it that also allows a different use of our EVs.
Yeah, so it's the grid to vehicle, vehicle to grid thing. It's
right.
It's one of the projects we're looking at. We don't have anything concrete yet. It's a cool idea that you know, the director of public works and mentioned, and we've looked into that. But again, nothing concrete yet. We do have 3 leaves for that the town hall staff uses. One is used by the inspector almost daily, from whatever 9 to 4, and then the other ones are sort of shared between staff, which are less used. But we do have three leaves. So,
Dimitri, do those get charged at the Magnolia lot, like those charge point chargers, or are there other chargers that are dedicated just for the town's cars?
No, we use Magnolia a lot. We can also use the little shed that's in the staff parking lot. It has an outlet. I mean, it's really slow, but we can also use that in a pinch if all the space are taken. And we have, I think.
I looked into getting one of the Pure Cine ones for our Fiat EV and had read that the manufacturer warranty can get voided if you're installing something like that. So it kind of shied me away from wanting to do it. So that was one thing to think about. I don't know if Ellie, did you get one of those for yours?
So I just use an inverter. It costs like $80 and an extension cord, and it works great. Good. Actually, it's kind of unbelievable. And in another couple of years, we should have these inverters basically built into every EV that's out there, and it should be much easier. It's already happening in Japan and other places, but we're just a little behind the times.
And our EVs are leased right now, so we're not stuck with them for foreseeable future. So if I think it's 2 or 3 years, maybe whatever the lease are. But if there's new technology out there, we in theory should have the opportunity to be able to tap into that in the future.
So the town doesn't have a warranty issue because you're leasing.
No, I'm assuming there would still be some kind of warranty or that would go against the lease, but I don't know the details.
Okay.
Can I ask a couple questions? Okay.
Yeah.
I've been in Colorado for a few months because we're redoing our house. I'm sure Elise knows all about it. So I wasn't in the last PSPS event, but my house it still had power. So is that because of the generator downtown, or was that because PG&E has made improvements?
The generator downtown is just for the town hall. It's not a microgrid.
PG&E just didn't take out the whole town. Portions of the town were out. Other portions were not. I was not out.
That's what I thought. So PG&E has been doing a lot of sectionalizing in Marin especially. So especially in that area of town, we may not see as many PSPS events. So I'm still fine to, put money and thought and time into this, but I just want to say like the calculus is changing, right? Like the longer we go, or the longer we wait, the more PG&E will supposedly have done, right?
Well, we hope so.
They're supposedly being more strategic.
Yes, but there are a couple things here. So that is true overall. So I think it will improve, and there's no question that it's in smaller sections and how they're turning off the electricity. But you also have to just remember that they're expecting to have PSPS events for at least the next decade. And so that means that we're expecting to have strong winds or stronger winds. This is only one example of what we've been experiencing lately. And with the strong winds, it's not just the intentional outage, it's also trees knocking down wires. So we've had more outages at my house here from wind as opposed to PG&E, right? And so I still think we want to be prepared from a climate adaptation and resilience perspective, not just from PSPS perspective.
Sure. I was just saying, the money that we can get out of the town council may change based on that. And then the other thing was that, and I promise this is related, but does the town of San Anselmo have a federal lobbyist, or do we use the county of Marin's, or do we even do any of that?
Not that I'm aware of.
The reason I'm asking,
I mean, other than our representatives who we do plead to for things.
Well, spoiler alert, I've been lobbying all of MCE's federal legislators for funds in the next stimulus bill to fund resiliency projects for jurisdictions that are, you know, experiencing PSPS and for climate adaptation and for green job creation. So depending on what happens in the next few days, we'll know, you know, potentially how big the federal stimulus package is, and also if we can, I mean, I'm already lobbying for MCE to get that in there, and it's kind of a no-brainer for most Democrats. So there may be more funds becoming available for a more diverse array of vendors, as Dimitri was speaking about. So I guess I'm just trying to say, I agree with the decision not to go now and to maybe wait for, you know, a few months and see if there are any more funds becoming available specifically for these types of projects.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. If you hear anything, let me know.
And I think that line of thinking specifically, I mean, I brought it up a last meeting or 2 meetings ago, was, you know, around like, we should also be thinking about what, you know, shovel-ready projects we want to kind of, you know, have in the hopper that, you know, when grant funding does materialize, that we can pounce on it. I will say also with regard to batteries, you know, and this is less true of using EVs in this manner, but when you have a battery, it not only protects your home or business or government office against losing power during a PSPS or other event, but it also does help the grid maintain stability and utilize more solar power. So it definitely is a really good thing to continue to invest in, because it allows the grid to adapt to more solar power. There was that crazy rolling brownouts for the first time in 20 years, plus years, that was a direct result of this spike and drastic fallout and a bunch of crazy market money stuff. But so anyways, it's all a good thing, and it's a good thing to help lower emissions to have storage. Moving on. Yeah.
Well, while we're on this topic, and I don't know if it's directly applicable, but one of the things we've been talking about a few meetings ago that I haven't heard come up lately was an e-bike charger, as well as the EV ARC project. Any news on those?
I think that's the next one, right?
It is actually the same. Yeah, it's this agenda item.
So yeah, all right. So the EV bike charger has been installed for a while now. It's by the town hall. It's just a plug with a a little sign on it that says EV bike charger. I have never seen anybody use it yet.
I'm going to take a picture of it and put it on Facebook.
You know, I'm riding my bike in, so I just forget to bring the charger. So it needs to be charged probably tomorrow, so I'll plug it in. I'll send you a picture.
Thank you.
So it's by the
cool.
Park there, by the right on the bench. For the EV ARC, I heard back from CalOES on one of the grants. They said that was not a covered activity under that grant, and it was the BRIC grant through FEMA. I looked at the other grant that the EV ARC people suggested. It was I think the Homeland Security grant for Urban Defense Initiative or something like that. And that was, like counterterrorism kind of supposed to help multiple counties. I didn't pass the straight face test, so I didn't even start on that. I'm still looking at other.
It's finding the right grant is the problem then.
I think so, and it's just, again, I think it's hard. Like right now, I think it's more difficult to get a grant to just buy something outright instead of, doing a construction project or something, that could have, either potential job implications or multiple at least vendors or something. If you just go in and say, hey, I want this, and give me $120,000 for 2 of these, I think it's a harder ask. But again, if some other funds are out there that might be available for something like that, we'll try again. And still looking, any input or any ideas anyone else has, please forward them along, and we'll take a look.
Thank you.
Good.
Single-use foodware ordinance and plastic bag ordinance. With R3, develop handouts on ordinance to share with merchants.
Oh, we have a hand raised. Who's Susanna Saunders has a hand raised.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's about past topic.
Yeah, Susanna?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I was just curious, Dimitri, did you let the EV ARC people know that grant wouldn't work and ask them if there were any others? I'm just curious.
Not yet, no. I mean, I heard from the CalOES people just a couple of weeks ago, I believe, and I have not reached out back to the EVR people yet. So they might, again, I've been trying to kind of talk to other jurisdictions and so forth to see if there's any other possible, because I mean they're not local, they're not, I think they have good ideas and federal grants and all that, but I don't know if that's necessarily applies to Marin and somewhat specific, but I can definitely reach out and just let them know, give them an update, sort of thing.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. So single-use food ordinance and plastic bag ordinance.
So I have I'm trying to set up a meeting with R3, who's the consultant, to prepare a specific, and hopefully more than one specific, material for us to use for our single-use plastic ordinance, so they can start following up on it. And I'm trying to set something up for Monday. So hopefully that'll start moving along soon. But they are on board to go visit all the businesses and kick that program back up again. And then with plastic bags, I don't know if you need, how are your stores doing?
I think that's been resolved. I can now take reusable bags anywhere I've gone.
I haven't had any problems anywhere I've gone, but I haven't been shopping in San Anselmo.
Yeah, I shop in San Anselmo, and United finally caved. So I think we're back.
It still seems like you have to bag your own, but I think that's
You
part
have
of
to
the
bag your
COVID
own,
initiative.
but that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least
But
they
I
let
haven't
you bring
run
it.
into any problems either.
Yeah, I think that's resolved. So I don't know if this is a separate agenda item or not. Could we also talk about the sort of the pizza box composting?
I feel like it's part of this item, so I think that's fine.
Yeah. So does anybody have an update on
another single-use item?
Yeah, pizza box, and then I know Janice is on, and we have some
and we've got
trash issues created by single-use items in town.
Yeah, and we've got Jennifer on too. So
yes, I know, everybody's on.
Yeah.
Great.
So we have I'll say we picked up the new flyers that we're going to have the businesses put on the pizza boxes, and Casey, I think I have the name right, is going to deliver them to the businesses. So hopefully that project will start reducing or increasing composting of pizza boxes soon. That's our hope.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know I brought up to the point that I had ordered from Creekside last week, and there was a sticker on the pizza boxes that we got, and my sticker was plastic based, and Jen said she saw them and they weren't. So I don't know if it was just the first lot of them that they ordered, but I was totally bummed when I saw it. So
May I ask a question?
yeah.
Kim, how did you test for plastic?
Oh, I mean, hold on, I'll grab it.
I got to go back down there and check it out. And I do know, you guys, that Casey did deliver
I mean,
the flyer.
these are I cannot tear these.
That's a good test. That's a really good test.
And there's a sheen to them that only plastic would give. So yeah. So, and the sad thing is that they're telling me to order pizza online, which I just picked up a pizza that I ordered. So it's confusing to me.
Yeah.
And I'm with Elise. We could easily just plug this into the back of the brochure, and we do want to migrate to the stamp idea. So I just have to finalize that artwork for us, because I wasn't sure if we wanted to put the Sustainability Commission logo into that artwork too, if we could, or not. So that was the only other question.
Maybe just something that shows recycling. But
Well,
yeah, I don't know how much you
motif.
can fit on it.
There is a motif there that's suggesting that. It's kind of just a leaf motif which kind of picks up off of the Sustainability Commission logo a little bit.
Right.
So
Do you guys have a read on how the test is going for doing the posting part of it?
I don't think we've put the brochures in use enough yet, have we?
I could speak to that if you guys want me
Oh,
to.
you're muted, Elise.
We can hear you now.
Jen or Elise?
We can't hear Elise.
I guess that means Jen, you should say something.
Okay, since you can't hear Elise, I'll tell you, when I was downtown on Sunday, for sure, there was a lot of good material in the compost cans, lots and lots of pizza boxes. And Dimitri put down all of the laminated flyers that we did on each of the picnic tables. Those have been there for a couple of weeks. So I think it's working. I think that the residents and folks who are coming downtown are doing a pretty good job, considering that sometimes cans are overflowing and such. So we're working on dialing that in as well with the town and with our folks. So is anybody else going downtown and flipping lids, or is it just me?
I took pictures of the whole get up down there a couple days ago. I've been taking, I actually had sent to a couple folks on the commission and elsewhere. Jennifer, I didn't copy you on it because I just wasn't ready to do that yet. But, you know, as we've been talking about getting R3 to do some marketing POP to get the 25-cent cup charge going and et cetera. You know, I was thinking about what COVID has done to change the amount of waste to so much more. And then also on some of my hikes in the morning with my dogs, my route changed and I go down, you know, I cross over like the dog park up to Storage, et cetera. And there's just so much trash around there coming out of the trash cans. So I've been taking pictures of it and picking up stuff. And, you know, there's some really great other folks that I see on the trail that are also picking up trash and around, you know, the parking areas. But my whole thing is I feel like we need to get a handle on it because it's the exact same reason, it's defeating the reason why we started doing the ordinance in the first place, because trash is getting out, it's blowing all over. And Alexis and I did a Creek Park cleanup, I don't know, a month and a half ago. And, you know, the trash cans down and around there are really bad. They have bad tops, and that's not that's a town's fault, I guess. But it blows, the trash just blows right out of there and blows into the creek. So we have to get a handle on it. And I was suggesting that we get a task force together with Jennifer, you, and I don't know, or whoever from Marin Sanitary and maybe R3. And Elise, I don't know how we do that, or if anybody would approve it or want to be part of it. I also talked to Chance and Renee last night about that at Chance's wave signing or wave thing in Fairfax. So they're definitely on board to collaborate as well. So Elise, do you know if we can do that, or is this something that has to go through the council?
I hear clicking.
Oh, you're very faint.
Yeah, I can barely hear you.
No.
Unplug your headphones and see if you can try it.
Weird. Did your sound check the sound on your computer? Did you make it go down? Audio?
I think you need to get Public Works to work on it. Because Sean's staff is the one that is dealing with those containers and the trash.
We heard you for a little bit there, but then
We can't hear you.
I'm blaming her headphones, her headset.
Yeah, I would get rid of the headset.
She was
But I think
working
that's what-
without the headset before, and she had an echo, so she put the headset on. I've had headsets go out in the middle of meetings.
Trying an
before.
alternate.
Yeah, good idea. Might work.
No, they don't.
Don't give up, Elise.
Sure. I think
Trying
she's
an
calling
alternate
in.
device.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So from what I gathered, her thought was to get Public Works to work on that.
Yes, thumbs up to that.
Maybe we can get the crew to do something. I'm not sure exactly, but we can definitely discuss with Sean.
I thought the letter from Sean said that was something. Was it tied into Drake's responsibility, Dimitri, to handle those bins by the Memorial Park? Was that what it was, Denise?
No,
Do you
it's
remember?
the bins by Red Hill back there by the field and dog park. They are, I think somebody did tell me that they were the responsibility of Drake.
Okay.
But we just need to do it as a town anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it'd be really a lot more powerful if we get, and Jennifer, I mentioned this to you before, that we just give it, bring everybody to the table and try and solve it. I mean, you're starting to do it with, if you're getting good results from the composting experiment.
Yeah. I find that the bins by the bus stop at San Francisco and Drake are often just overflowing with stuff too. Because I think there are 2 or 3 bins right there, but they're usually just totally crowded with things and not the right things.
So hopefully you can hear me now.
Yes.
my other connection. Yeah, exactly. I think because Public Works picks up the trash and has the staff that's regulating it and also orders the bins. I feel like I'm out of the loop with how that is operated, but I would love to be on a task force if they're willing to work with one, and it's even just have a couple meetings might be enough. And then I did want to offer that those zero waste funds could be used for like a nicer set of containers at Creek Park that doesn't look, so junky. And maybe something we could roll out to other parks if it worked. Like maybe it could be on a trial basis to make sure that the crew can take the, cans out, or that it works functions properly, but that may be one that just encourages recycling more, that just looks nicer, or could have our flyers on it better or something like that, if that would help. Because it sounds like Ross is having success with the ones they have. They just have those rolling bins, but with big covers. So they're really massive, but maybe we just need bigger containers at some of these places with better signs. And I know Public Works deals with this, so it's easy for me to say that, but it sounds like from what Sean responded was that they've tried everything. So I think meeting with them would be better.
I will, Dimitri, do you want to ask Sean about that, or do you want me to? I'd be happy to.
Yeah, if you can, do you have my email? Or I think I can facilitate a discussion with Sean, a Zoom meeting or what have you, but I'm not really familiar with that part of Public Works. So I'm not sure.
I'll get in touch with him, because he was open to a conversation, and I did bring up, do you think it'd be possible to do a task force around it? And he never answered. So I'll just follow up and see what happens.
Okay, yeah, follow up, and then you can also email me if he doesn't respond, so I can push him a little bit and see if we can get the conversation going. But yeah, I'm not really familiar with that part. So if he wants me involved, I will be, but I just don't have much to contribute at this point.
Right.
Cool.
Cool. I'm happy to be on a task force, Casey and I. If
Right.
you want to go to Ross, check out what they have. They're called cart garages. They are enormous. Another key thing is to have the opening, have what they had there was strange. They had a location, an opening about this big, because it was for a blue can. It was meant for paper recycling. And so everybody was putting their pizza boxes in it. So they got rid of that completely. And right now they just have one of our green cans next to it. And then they have bottle and can recycling with just a round hole. Because right now, that in a park setting especially, that's all you're going to find. And that would be the best way to make sure that that's what people put in there. And then what I keep thinking is these huge things are basically a billboard. I mean, maybe you don't want to use them like that in an ugly sense, but to put lots of information on them. Big words like, this goes to the landfill, or please recycle. I mean, something. So there's certainly lots of other ideas. And I think that we could probably, I know Sean cares about this. And so I think that we could all convince him to give it another shot. And if, right? If we offer to help do it.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah. And I'm happy to be part of that task force too, so.
Great.
How about, can I ask the students, well, you guys aren't at school right now, but the students at 1327 Sir Francis Drake, is there anything, do you have good containers that work there? I was wondering, because you must have a lot of the same issue.
Yes, I think that a lot of people don't really know how to use them, despite like our best efforts, and there are little graphics. I'd say there's a compost bin. I'd say there's like a good amount of compost bins, but oftentimes they're just not in a proximity where kids are like literally just too lazy to walk down one hall further to put their banana peel in a compost bin. And then with the paper thing, a lot of people just don't realize that you can do it. So like we had an event on campus the other day, and because of COVID stuff, they have to like pre-package all food from the cafeteria. And that was like loads of plastic, and it really stressed me. It was not a fun feeling to see, but then like a lot of people didn't want to like empty the food waste into the compost bin. And so it just all ended up in the landfill.
Yeah, we have a few like more modernized
yeah
bins that's like, yeah, there's like a few nice ones. And then there's just some that are kind of falling apart. So we have kind of a mix of both.
Hopefully, like right now, I would say like every other hallway, there's like a fancy little colony of 3 with the compost, landfill, and recycling. But then they also have like the slips where like you can't fit things into it. So like you can't fit large things into the compost bin, so people will just give up and put it into the trash cans.
I was going to add, I feel like it's pretty inconsistent when I've walked through there. So I do see a few nice ones and then I see a few janky ones.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Maybe they need cart garages also.
Moving on.
I have a quick one, sorry, for just because I can't not comment compulsively or something. The town, just talking about using the zero waste funds for garbage enhancement. I mean, it's definitely, that's a piece of it, but it also has to do with making the downtown a good place to be that's not covered in trash. And there's actually some money in a town fund called the Downtown Revitalization Fund. And that's on page 94 of the budget. My suggestion would be to find a way to get some of that money, which is left over from a project, I guess, from several years ago, get some of that money for any downtown trash stuff. And that way it's not just falling on zero waste grant money.
Thank you.
Right.
Good tip.
Awesome. We are getting down to it. So I'm going to just jump ahead to select meeting dates because I feel like that's going to be a question for us all. There's a couple of, there's obviously the holidays, and then town staff is furloughed for a period of days. So we're basically looking at this was technically our October meeting, but we're basically looking at, my guess is one meeting between now and the end of the year. My kind of thought is to do it either really late November or early December. And I know there's some, maybe it's Planning Commission or something. So
Yes, so December 14th I have available because it's in between Planning Commission. If that's a Monday night that works for you. So it's the second Monday of the month.
Are we tied to Mondays? I mean, I have no problem with
No.
the 14th. I'm looking for it, yeah. But
the 14th
there's-
people, that seems like the easiest thing to do.
I'm fine with the 14th, and that would give us a chance to have some of these meetings that we need to hold between now and the next meeting, get some progress.
great. Kimberly, Ellie, 14th.
Good.
Yep.
Okay, sweet. Let's schedule it then for the 14th of December. Awesome. Do we want to talk about potential quarterly town forums?
Well, let me just give you a little update on that. I did try to contact the library staff because they've been having some public forum type meetings, but I haven't heard back from them. So Elise, you were going to forward my message to someone else.
Yeah, I did. I don't know why she would, would really shock me that she didn't respond. So let me try
I
again.
know, because I love the library staff, but maybe she's pretty
Yeah,
fried managing that
unusual.
stuff,
Yeah.
that curbside pickup thing.
That seems really unusual. So let me do it again tomorrow.
Okay, so we're looking into that. And so let me just, we can talk about this next time, but let me just float this. I've been trying to think about what we could have as a topic that would get more than 3 people, right? And there are already a lot of meetings on electric vehicles and things. Carlene does presentations left, right, and center. I was thinking of something that would be motivational, that would get people to then rush out of the room and go sign up for Deep Green and things. And so tell me if you think this is nuts. I don't know if you've seen it, but David Attenborough has a new film out. I think it's called This Is Planet Earth or something. And it's absolutely devastating. And it's on, you know, the impacts of climate change. And it makes you want to jump out of your chair and turn off all your lights and give away your car. So it's on Netflix, and he has his website says it's available. Anybody with a Netflix account can show it, you know, for educational screenings. And if we had a Zoom meeting account that we could use for something like that, I thought that would be kind of interesting. Though kind of a bummer around the holidays, but so we could schedule it after that. But anyway, you don't have to tell me now, but I just was gonna run that up the flagpole.
Well, I just like to say it is a very powerful film, and the middle section, which covers, you know, a lot of it covers most of my lifetime, is very sad. And then, but he does end with a positive vision of the future and what's possible and how we can, you know, reclaim a balance with nature and be part of nature, not apart from nature, as he says. It's very beautiful, very, very powerful. And, you know, I think if we're going to do something like that, we could schedule a half-hour community discussion afterwards, which would be, what are the things we can do in town here to address climate change, to address the decline of nature, and why is nature important? It would be fascinating to do that. And since we can't go to movie theaters, we could do a showing like that and include and sponsor it from the commission, and maybe have a couple guest panelists or something. Or maybe it's just an open discussion with people afterwards. It would be really moving. Anyway, thanks, Kathleen, for even thinking about it. I do highly recommend the film, but bring some tissues with you.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. But important. And my neighbor, who's not really like a climate activist at all, asked me if I'd seen it. And I'm like, well, yes, I did. You've seen it? So it's getting around, but certainly not everyone's heard of it. I thought it would be neat if people hadn't heard of it. You know, give people a month's warning in advance, you know, advertise it and so on. Anyway.
Would it be kind of like, are you thinking it would be like kind of like a book club, Kathleen, where, you know, we kind of give the assignment to watch it and then come and discuss it?
You know, that's an idea. That's actually what the Fairfax community chat people are doing. They assigned a little documentary on food waste, and then they're going to chat about it. We could do that. I was thinking of doing it all in the same session. It's not all that tremendously long. I think it's.
Well, I see the runtime is an hour and 54 minutes. So that's,
yeah,
it's long. It is to sit and watch it together. It might be better to. I watched it in 2 settings myself. But.
Yeah. We could, but then does everyone have Netflix? I just sort of thought, I was thinking of offering it and letting people watch it and having a little intro by the Sustainability Commission saying, we're trying to tackle some of these issues. And then we'd love to get your comments afterwards. I don't know, we could do it in a follow-up session if anyone was interested. Anyway, I was thinking of offering it because not everyone else is going to go out to Netflix and rent it.
You said there was a section about public screenings and whatnot. Did you say that?
On the website, yes, it has a thing on screenings.
And sometimes there's you know, additional cuts that are made of the film. You know, so there's the theatrical version, and then there might be an educational version that might be shorter or a little bit easier to.
I'll look, but I kind of think it's just. I think it is what it is. It's.
I love the idea of you know, of showing a film. Maybe it's this one, or maybe it's you know, two short films or something like that. Have a little you know, film festival-y kind of a thing. I think that's a being a documentary filmmaker myself, I think that's a great way of attracting, you know, maybe a little bit broader of interest in our community forum. So
yeah. So let's think about that after the holidays. I'll include the link in the minutes. I recommend seeing it, and then we can talk about how to get people engaged. I thought it would get people excited about doing good things for the planet. So.
Yeah.
All righty. think that's all for tonight. Any requests for future agenda items that we should?
I think we, and Ellie, you probably know more about this than me. I didn't know whether we needed to go back and look at the climate action plan document related to the governor's executive order. I didn't know whether anything had come out that would cause us to go back and look at the plan and revisit any of our planned milestones.
Well, actually, yes. Maybe Kathleen, you and I could do this between now and the next meeting.
Okay.
Because well, actually, I would say I've read both of the two executive orders. So there's two different climate related executive orders on the electric vehicle sales, which, you know, zero emission vehicle, 100% zero emission vehicle, new car and light truck sales by 2035. And the second one is about protecting 30% of California by 2030. And it includes specific recommendations for or deadlines for state agencies to have plans regarding sequestration and specific measurable goals, which is great. But so in some ways we'd say it doesn't directly impact us yet. But you know, so our goals for the number of EVs, for example, by 2030, which we thought were too low right from the beginning, probably are too low by 2030.
Okay.
But it's not a direct, but it's not directly a result of this thing yet, because it all depends on what pace it goes at and, you know, things like that. So but I'm happy to talk with you separately, Kathleen, if you'd like to go through it together. That would be fun to do, and just and then we could say what we think should be in a future executive order to help us do more in our town.
Right. So that was one thing I thought we should at least talk about.
Why don't we talk separately? Like, let's try to do it before Thanksgiving, and then we can, or you know, right after Thanksgiving, and let Forrest and Elise know if we want to put it on the agenda or not.
Okay.
That's great.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy election results.
Yes.
Right.
Let's keep the faith. All right. Bye, everybody.
Good night.